With close racing in the Motul Superbike class the norm, most didn't predict what was going to happen on the last lap of race 1. Cam Beaubier and Tony Elias colliding? Now, with Tony going down and Josh Herron on his way unfazed, most didn't see the win going to Cameron by a whisker. But that's how it happened. Now, with the Elias-Beaubier rival revived, sparks will fly for race 2 from the track known as 4 Miles of Fun, and it happens only on beIN Sports. It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, round 410 for 2018. Welcome to the Dunlop Championship at MotoAmerica in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. You can take a look at the temperature right now as we are setting the stage for the Motul Superbike class race action. And, well, when we left last, it was 0.02 of a second margin of victory, like you saw there. Greg White joining me in the booth here is Jason Pridmore, who's won 2 world titles, 2 AMA titles to his credit, along with a lot of race wins. And Hannah joining us down doing the duties on pit lane as we take a look at Tony Elias on his sighting lap. Now, Jason, this has really been the talk of the town, hasn't it? The Motul Superbike class.
It seems like all we needed was one of those races, Greg, that's going to get everybody fired up and everybody giving opinions. And yesterday was definitely not boring. Yesterday was an incredible race that had a lot of ups and downs. So it's just going to be intriguing to see what's in store for us today.
So it looks like a similar day to yesterday, but the wind is moving around, all kinds of crazy stuff. But we want to hear from the third member of our broadcast team who's outside where all the action is. Hannah, how's it going down there?
Riders are gridding up right now. Like you said, it's just a little bit windier than earlier, but nothing really dramatically different from yesterday, even this morning's conditions. So whatever setups they were working on, I'm sure will be fine for this afternoon's race.
All right, well, keep us posted if anything changes down there, because every now and then here in Wisconsin, Jason, a rain cloud might pop up and rain like one corner of this entire track.
Yeah, sitting from where we're sitting, we can look outside, and it just seems like 20 minutes ago there was nothing but like bright sun and everything, and then it just kind of gets overcast and cloudy.
Well, this track is absolutely spectacular, one of the favorites on the calendar for everybody. And, Jason, it's got a lot of hot spots, doesn't it?
Yeah, this track is, I've said it all weekend, it's one of the favorites of all the riders. You can look at it 4 miles long, been around for a lot of years. Go down the big, long front straightaway into turn 1, down into turn 3. Very important to get the best drive you can, because you go down this big, long back straightaway through turn 4, down into turn 5, which is one of our very first hot spots on the track. It's where you see all the big passing coming down. You can see this group of riders coming down yesterday at the start of the race. This is down into turn 5. Very important, Greg, to get through here clean on the first lap. You have a lot of runoff down there, but with the draft and things like that, it can draw you in, and you don't want to have to go down that little escape road because it's going to cost you a lot of time. But we see a lot of action down there. Then the next big hot spot we got after you go through the hurry downs area down through turn 8, turn 9 and turn 10. The longest corner on our calendar. This is a big downhill right-hand sweeper, but if your bike's working really well through here, you can make up a lot of time on your competitors. And if you have a bike that works well through here, it causes you a lot less stress too, because you're maximum lean angle for such a long time. Then you go through a little quick chicane down into Canada Corner, and yeah, there was a few things that happened down in this turn yesterday, and it was why it was one of my hot spots yesterday when I talked about it. A lot of passing opportunities down into this last corner, down into Canada Corner, but it gets very tight down there, Greg. What you don't notice on TV is just how it funnels down in there and gets tight. And then we got the last corner. Why is it so important? Well, because it leads onto this big front straightaway that goes up a very steep incline, a big steep uphill. And whether you're leading or whether you're second or third coming out of this last corner, it's just really important to get the best drive you can out of there and get to the line.
All right, listen, you saw it at the top of the show. If you didn't join us yesterday, there was a lot of drama that happened on this last lap of the race, with Tony Elias hitting Cameron Beaubier in turn number 1, and then, of course, in Canada Corner, and then the race to the checkered flag. Let's go hear from those 3 that were involved in the fierce battle yesterday.
Last lap was definitely pretty wild. There was some really, some aggressive riding going on pretty much the whole race that I was kind of struggling with at the beginning. I was just kind of sitting back watching it, but I knew I had to get aggressive to win the race.
They can say this is dirty from my side, but they were doing the same things. So if I was dirty, they were dirty. But at the end, who was on the ground in Canada corner and lost 25 points? It's me. So another day, another race. I'm concentrate. I won't continue like before, and championship is long, and I believe in karma.
We got called up into the race control, and I thought I was in trouble for something, but really I think it was just to kind of give my opinion on the whole last lap thing. But they were pretty pissed at each other. It was kind of intense. I just kind of sat back, let them do their thing, and kind of laughed a little bit. So it's interesting for sure, but I think today's race is going to be pretty gnarly.
That's what we're expecting as well, today's race being pretty gnarly. Well, you heard from those three riders involved in the great race yesterday, but he's with Tony Elias is with Hannah right now.
Tony, fans at home just got to hear a little bit about your version of what happened yesterday. Are you looking for redemption today to make up on some of those points you missed out on yesterday's race?
We are just concentrated to try to win again today. Will be difficult. We will be another great battle. But for what I feel in these 2 laps, the bike is working much better than yesterday. So maybe not to be more fast, but maybe to be more comfortable, less movements. So I hope that helped me to be more ready to win the race.
Well, thanks, Tony. Best of luck.
All right, so there you go. The stage is set for high drama. We'll take a break on beIN. When we come back, more coming at you from Road America. All right, so we're back to Road America, and a lot of action going down on the grid, so let's get down to Hannah.
I'm sitting here with Matt Skultz. Matt, we've seen you struggling a little bit throughout the weekend, but you were able to pick up the pace this morning, going pretty fast. What changes were made to the bike, if any, for this afternoon's race?
Well, we kind of saw during the first race where we were battling slightly, and Ed and John last night cooked up something, and we seem to have actually found something that we're confident we could be battling up front. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to just to get out there and show what we have. I'm really looking forward to it. Yesterday it was a little bit disappointing to crash out after coming on pretty strong towards the end there. But we'll just take it as it comes really. But I'm looking forward to it.
Best of luck to you. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, yeah, Matthew Skultz.
Yeah.
There's one more guy that we're going to be able to throw into this mix. Talked to Chuck this morning, said they were very happy with where things ended up this morning in warm-up. So, yeah, Matthew's going to be right in there battling with those other guys as well. And don't think that he's going to be afraid to run it in there as well.
Well, let's take a look at the keys to the race, Jason, as we get ready for this Motul Superbike class. What do you think is the key to the race?
Well, yesterday, we've already kind of built this race up, but for me, yesterday we had an 8-rider lead pack up at the front at the beginning of this race. And Danny Eslick, I talked to him this morning. They're also trying to come up with a couple little ideas of what they could do to get that Scheibe BMW up there. Second key to the race, rivalries. I think we definitely had a few yesterday. Saw Josh Herron there say yesterday that he got called up to the principal's office. He probably was wondering why, and he had a good laugh about it. But changes overnight, what changes overnight did these guys make to make their bikes a little better? We already heard Tony say that he made some changes this morning, and it looked like it helped control some of the movement that we saw and we commentated on yesterday in the race. So let's see if that plays true and what kind of strategies these guys start to use against themselves today.
Here's the way they're going to line up. Cameron Beaubier on pole position, Tony, and Garrett Gerloff, the rookie who had a great run yesterday, finishing on the podium. Matthew Skultz, Roger Hayden, Josh Herron on row number 2.
Row 3, Danny Eslick, Jake Lewis, tremendous run yesterday to get himself up into 4th place. Bobby Fong, who we're going to get the chance to see start from his grid spot today, which is great. Kyle Wyman, David Anthony, and Cam Peterson on the outside of row 4. Row 5, we got Sebastian Ferrero, Max Flinders, Bruno Silva, on row 5. And then we got Jeffrey Perk and Sam Roderico, row 6, filling out our grid.
All right, now keep in mind, Dunlop did introduce a new tire this weekend. It's a 260 from the 250. And so teams still making adjustments. Some teams had a chance to test with that larger rear tire, and some teams tested kind of a half a bike and everything else. So some of what the Yamalu Westby Racing Team was dealing with was just getting used to getting the data in and getting, you know, the overall bike setup for that larger rear tire, which of course what Dunlop has created in that is better drive grip for a lot of racers in this Motul Superbike class. So as the grid clears, Jason, it's visors down time.
Yeah, visors down. And when we see that piece on Dunlop when they're talking about testing as a rider is probably one of the hardest things that you can go do when you start testing tires. And when you have a company like Dunlop behind you that you know are going to try to come out with something superior, the hardest thing for a racer is to get away from a tire that they like. So when you heard some of the comments about riders really wanting to come here and race on the hill, go to other tracks before they were ready to release it and race on it, it goes to show you how good the tires are. So yeah, here we go, race 2, Road America. Yeah, I think it's fun to be like a Garrett Gerloff or a Kyle Wyman or Bobby Fong. Some of those guys that are going to be in this race, knowing what happened yesterday, they weren't really part of the craziness, but now they might be today because you know everyone's going to be going up front.
All right, so make sure you check us out on Twitter at @BNMotor. Who's going to claim the Motul Superbike race? Well, tweet us your answers and use these hashtags. All right, so hashtag #MotoAmerica. You think it's going to be Cameron Beaubier? Hashtag Beaubier RA2 or Tony Elias. Hashtag Elias RA2 or Josh Herron perhaps. Hashtag Herron RA2. And of course, we're monitoring all this stuff. And if you were joining us during the Super Sport race earlier today, we put a couple of your comments up on the television screen. Hope you enjoyed that. So that's the Corvette Bridge. That is a fun and interesting turn 6. It's blind coming over the crest of that. And as they bend it through turn number 7, riders head down into a section called Hurry Downs. Hurry Downs then goes down a hill where Josh Herron's going bottom of your screen. And then there's a left-hand corner. That's turn number 8. You'll hear Jason and I talk about it often. And there's the Johnsonville Speedville Bridge into the famous carousel. And then on through this. Let's get down to Hannah, who has our Cycle Gear last-minute report. Hannah?
Yeah, Greg, you know, you guys were just talking about that new tire from Dunlop, and I spoke with Josh Herron this morning. He does have an adjustable swing arm pivot on his bike.
No. So yeah, he does have an adjustable swing arm pivot on his bike, and they made some changes to try to get some grip. I think Hannah and I were talking about it earlier. A little bit of a frog in her throat there. She'll be back with us here in just a minute, but yeah, so that Cycle Gear last-minute report is on that adjustable pivot. Yeah, and the fact that they're trying to create more grip. And if you get a chance to come to one of these races, you've got to visit that Attack Performance Herron Compound pit and take a look at that Superbike, because what Richard Stamboli has created with that swing arm,
gorgeous,
is absolutely spectacular, and a lot of good custom bits on that motorcycle.
And he actually had the MotoGP bike here that he put into play probably 4 or 5 years ago. And they had that on display down there too. And I saw a lot of people taking a lot of pictures of that as well.
So this is it. It's time to take the grid. Your grid spot once again where you qualified. And once everyone's in place, we're going to get this final Motul Superbike race number 2 from Road America underway. Now, we've talked about this before. If you join us early on Saturday for Super Pole qualifying, where some riders saying that grid position here at Road America not as critical, but for sure what is critical is a very good start, because if there's a lead group that starts to break away and you're not in that draft, it is race over for you, especially with the pace these riders have.
Yeah, and again, at a track like this, that first 10-15 seconds of your race is so important because it can really help you get up to a good start down that back straightaway.
Here we go, race number 2, Motul Superbike underway. Tony Elias with a really good start. Cam Beaubier nearly matching it, but it's the number 1 Tony Elias. Oh, Roger Hayden also with a great launch on his Yoshimura Factory Suzuki.
I think we saw the same exact thing yesterday. I think Raj placed himself up into second real early. Herron drops himself into 4th. Looks like Matthew Sculpt's there. And Danny Eslick got a tremendous launch from the 3rd row of the grid, and he has got himself up into 6th very early. Actually, it's Garrett Gerloff behind Herron. It was not Matthew like I thought it was, but Garrett Gerloff is there in 5th, Eslick 6th, and then you can see Sculpts and Wyman just behind him. First run down to the turn 5. Got to be careful of the draft. Right now, they're not in a big pack. A lot of single file riding down there as they head down into turn 5.
Tony Elias leads away from his teammate, talking to Roger Hayden's crew chief, saying that they've come up with a much better motorcycle this morning. It was just little changes for Roger Hayden to get him more comfortable on that motorcycle. So if Raj can hold this one together. This is going to be at least a 5-rider train. Oh, there's Danny Eslick, like you're saying, back in 6th. Schultz in 7th.
Yep, Matthew got past him. Tony runs it in deep into here, Greg. You can see he kind of ran out of our screen real quick, ran a little wide on his exit. That's going to allow these guys to close up on him. Look at Josh Herron's bike. Look at how good Josh Herron's bike's working. You can see, same with Cameron. Cameron's trying to go around the outside of Raj as well. So Raj doesn't look as comfortable through the carousel as the rest. Herron's going to try to duck underneath Raj on the first lap down into the chicane. And Garrett Gerloff's trying his best to sneak in there as well. So right now, we've got this big line of guys. You see Jake Lewis back there just ahead of Kyle. I think Bobby Fong is just behind them. But you got this big Congo line of guys all together.
Definitely Tony Elias's bike doesn't look as loose as it did yesterday, but it's still got a little wiggle in it.
I just have never seen Tony's bike back in as much as it has this weekend at Road America. It's a little puzzling to me. We've seen him be able to let off the brake and go right to the apex of corners a lot. We've made a lot of comments on that. You can see Cameron's going to go up underneath him, coming into the last corner. Cameron's so good getting in and out of that last turn. He's not afraid to go in there a little bit more shallow. We got our front 3 guys with the 3 guys that caused a lot of fireworks for us yesterday, and Raj Hayden is right now in their draft. He wants to get part of it also.
Trying to find position on the front straightaway. You can see Tony's bike moving underneath him. I talked to Daisuke about that as Tony takes the lead over. So Tony's back to the front. What Daisuke, Tony's crew chief, was saying was it's all about the big tire. Electronics are fine. It comes down to them trying to find the right suspension setup. Boy, Elias deep into turn number 3, accelerates out. There's Herron sweeping around the outside, trying to get position down to turn 5.
And now it's just, now that they get that first lap jitters out of the way, and here comes Raj. He's going to be looking down the inside, and Cameron just kind of closes the door over to the left there. Raj wasn't able to come up underneath him. And this here, we see Garrett Gerloff. We were able to see him yesterday on the podium talking about how he learned about how the draft affected him and how he made a mistake very early in the race. You can see right now, he just kind of followed these guys in there. Wasn't trying anything really big going down into turn 5 was Garrett. This is a good spot for him to be able to try to learn as much as he can to where he could be there halfway through the race. Bobby Fong has now moved his way through. Danny Eslick is also behind.
Gerloff attacking Roger Hayden. So the number 31, Garrett Gerloff, on that Monster Energy Yamaha factory racing machine up into 4th spot. Through the carousel they go, and man, that attack performance Yamaha looks so good on the edge of the tire.
Yeah, and there's a big seam that you can see on our TV screen about halfway through, and you really like to be crossed back over that before you get through the exit of the corner. But Josh feels so comfortable with his bike that it's not hurting him to be just to the outside of that right now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 riders. And Jake Lewis just off the back of that pack. So not quite the passing that we saw initially in this race yesterday, as Tony Elias goes to that apex. And oftentimes he takes that outside foot, just kind of dangles off that peg, and for a second it always makes my heart stop.
Yeah, well, a lot of times when that happens, you think that the person's losing the front of the bike there, and Tony is not. But you can see the corner speed these guys carry through the corners, and Tony again just kind of getting the bike stopped at the apex and firing out onto the straightaway. His bike is just so fast. You can see the Yamahas can't even really draft him down the straight, Greg, and that could be a tell. And now Garrett Gerloff he's drawn up in the draft. Look at all the debris that it kicks up with all these bikes going down that big straightaway.
So Tony Elias with a 13.6 obviously leads the way. And it's 13.7, 13.9. Garrett Gerloff, there goes Josh Herron, just underneath Tony in turn number 3. Went up the inside of him on that one. Usually he was sweeping around the outside, and there goes Tony.
You can see a lot of the bikes moving and shaking as they come on the straightaways, Greg. Not on the straightaways. And there goes Josh. He's going to try to go down underneath Cameron as they head down into turn 5. But there's a lot of wind, a lot of buffeting, and when you get to be that 3rd, 4th, 5th rider in line and you start to pull out of the draft, you see a lot of buffeting. That's what you're going to see on your TV screens. You're going to see a lot of shaking back and forth. Raj Hayden has now moved himself back through on Garrett Gerloff. So let's just hope that Raj can just kind of keep with these guys the best he can. I'm curious to see how his bike's getting through the carousel, because right now these 3 guys in front of him were a little quicker, and last time when he went through there he was behind Garrett. So let's see if he can go with these guys through the carousel this lap.
Bobby Fong in the mix as well. Number 50 in the Quicksilver Lexington Moto Hudson Motorcycles machine. What happened yesterday, he had to start from pit lane because he crashed in Super Pole qualifying, and they were just getting that motorcycle buttoned up when they rolled out. So that's part of the reason why Bobby Fong was back in the field now, given a chance. Fong right up in the mix.
And you know, right now, Matthew Schultz, Bobby Fong, great spots to be in. Nobody's really shown that they can get away just yet. So, and they know kind of what in the back of their mind what happened yesterday. They're going to let these three guys kind of sort themselves out a little bit. Garrett gets in a little bit deep, going into chicane, going into Canada corner. That's going to cost him some time. He almost got up the back of Raj a little bit, but he's got it back under control. He's just got to not let that gap get too big, and that's what happens. You get drawn into that draft, and it makes it hard because the guy in front of you starts slowing down too much. You have that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm going to run up the back of him. You can see Herron out on the paint, doing everything he can to get the drive he wants coming on that straightaway.
Jason, I know it's early days in this race. I mean, obviously, we have now 10 laps to go. Tony Elias is getting so good off that corner as Raj Hayden's still in fourth spot. So good off that corner. I think the only way, if this remains the same, yes, now Raj goes up in the third.
Yeah.
Confidence building for Roger Hayden, having conversations with him as of late. Got lost in the amount of things you can do to set up this motorcycle. And Roger right now in the process of rebuilding his confidence, part of the cycle that racers go through during the course of their career. So the number 95, Roger Hayden, working on it right now. Speed's building and confidence is building. But Jason, like I was saying, I think at this point, it's early days, I know that. But the only way that this field is going to be able to beat Tony Elias with the way things are right now and the speed of his motorcycle, the drives he's able to get, is you've got to put him third or fourth.
It's really hard because his bike is so fast, he's so small, he can get down behind the bubble of that Yoshimura Suzuki so well that it's so easy for him to just kind of draft back up. You know, looking back here, what we're seeing, see that little gap? Garrett still hasn't been able to close that little gap that he lost at Canada corner. That's all it takes. So then what ends up happening is you start pushing really hard. You can see again, Herron out on the outside. You start pushing and then you make little mistakes and those gaps create bigger gaps. So right now, Garrett's just got to hope that these four guys just get each other blocked up a little bit so he can kind of get back up into that draft. Because right now he's with that little mistake in Canada corner, he's created that gap for not only himself, but for the guys behind him as well. So now we kind of got a four-rider pack, but if they work together, that's going to be between these four guys.
Josh Herron spinning up the rear tire coming out of the chicane. Yesterday, when we get to this section of the racetrack, the final corner of the final lap, when Josh Herron looked like he might have had it in control, he said post-race that he thought he might have shifted it down into first gear. I went to visit his team, Richard Stamboli at Attack Performance, as Herron trying to find a faster outside line and really get a drive onto the front straightaway.
He really is able to put that bike anywhere for Herron. He's really able to put the bike anywhere he wants.
What happened to Tony?
Now, but look at Raj. Raj is going to be in the draft. And both Yoshimura Suzukis almost hit each other because they were both trying to fight for the draft of Josh Herron. That's what you just saw there, Greg. They were both fighting for the same draft. Now, Tony's going to try to slide it up on. He's not. See, he's going to be a little nicer to his teammate there. But this is what you were talking about earlier. See how Tony's back in that fourth place now? He's going to be able to draft by both of these guys probably down the back straightaway.
So we'll see if Josh Herron can pull the pin on this one. But let me just circle back to what I was saying. Josh alluded to us that he thought he shifted back down into first gear, usually second gear. Went to Richard Stamboli. We looked at the data, and indeed, he was in first gear. And we concluded that it is longer than 0.02 of a second to actually shift from second to first gear. And that was the difference. Is Cam Beaubier making some big moves here. Beaubier trying that inside line. So it's Josh Herron, Cameron Beaubier, Roger Hayden, and all of a sudden Tony Elias back in fourth spot.
Yep, Cameron runs a little bit wide in sixth. Raj thought about kind of trying to get up underneath him going into seven, but there's just not a lot of room there. But see, these guys just battling a little bit, Greg. Look what it's done.
Yep.
Look what's right behind
everybody's bunched back up.
Garrett's there, Schultz is there. Just these guys just playing around a little bit. On that front straightaway just now, after Herron took the lead, both Yosh bikes were both fighting for that draft, and they both almost kind of came together. That's why we saw that separation when they went down into turn one. But Cameron Beaubier now trying to take the fight up to Herron.
Yeah, because if you have this opportunity right now, this is going to be the big move. This could be the race in terms of putting Tony Elias behind everyone, but it's really going to tell the story once we get onto this front straightaway just how fast that #1 motorcycle is.
And another thing, if Cameron Beaubier gets out just enough to where it becomes half a second or a second, this is where your pit board becomes so pivotal, because if you see that you're a second out, that maybe there's a gap created between second and third, you're going to work together. Raj runs wide.
Big mistake.
That hurts Raj, so now that gap's even bigger. So if Herron comes across the line in second and sees 0.5, 0.7, 1 second, whatever it is. He's going to do whatever he can to not mess up the camera.
Right down.
Big crash.
Yeah.
That looks like Scults.
That looks like Scults.
That's Matthew Scults. That's going to be a big high side out of turn 13, and he's off, and he's not. Let's see if we see him moving around, Greg. We need to be able to see him moving. Both these bikes now come up the front straightaway. That was a big crash, Greg, come out of turn 13. Red flag, kind of what I expected to see. That bike was laying on the edge of the racetrack.
Plus, it looks like Matthew is hurt. So we'll see what happens here, but a big red flag. Matthew Scults with a crash coming up over the crest. It's when you're on the racetrack, it's more dramatic than it looks on TV. That's the Bill Mitchell bend section of the racetrack, turn 13.
And it falls away from you. You go uphill, and then it kind of goes off camber. We're getting some good word right now that Matthew's moving around, which is good. But what happens is you come up over the top of that little rise. There he is. There's Matthew. So, yeah, I mean, the bike is in a bad spot. Matthew's in a horrible spot as well. And it's what happens, Greg, is there's a little escape road out there that there's a white line. And if your bike gets sliding a little bit before that white line, the white line can then turn the bike sideways, or you might not make it back over to the grass. It's great to see Matthew up. And, of course, he's walking to his motorcycle, as any racer would want to do.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be held. He wants to try to get back on that bike, but I'm not sure they're going to let him do that.
Yep. No, I mean, the thing is that when we saw him initially, he's going to try to ride the thing back in. But, it's very easy to get the wind knocked out of you as well here. I'm looking for any marks on his helmet. From this side, I don't see it. But here you go. It's going to be late in the accident there. So that's going to have he's going to have already tipped over. And they're probably more concerned. It's really a weird crash, Greg, because the bike is on the left side. It almost makes me wonder if he's lost the front. He could have high-sided off the inside of the bike. And by that, I mean the bike snaps to the right, and then it snaps you back over the high side to the inside of the motorbike. And that's kind of what it looked like. He's obviously seen his bike, and it's probably not in that great a shape. So
Matthew Scults, and it is a one-bike rule here in MotoAmerica competition for the Motul Superbike class. So as the ambulance rolls, we're going to take a look at him. But so that one-bike rule, even if Matthew was deemed that he could race, that team would have to get that bike back.
Yeah.
Scults very frustrated, you can see, because he knew he had the pace, he was in the mix.
Yeah, he's frustrated. I mean, that's pretty natural for all the guys, and all the riders are going to be pretty frustrated with themselves.
Yeah.
They know how hard their teams work. And
well, I mean, Jason, listen, as we look at Matthew, you look at those lap times, and you're talking about Josh Herron had just come across the line at a 2:12.9.
Look at Matthew now. He gets frustrated. He's shaking the hands of all the medical teams and stuff. But, yeah, go back to your point. I love it. Yep.
Because he is such a good guy.
He is.
The problem is that, when you look at it, 2:13 flats, 2:13.1s, that's the pace.
Yeah.
And Matthew had just done a 2:13.1, so he knew he was in that mix. And just that one little miscue, maybe like you're saying, just offline a little bit, get the rear spinning up, and away she went. Electronics are a great thing, Jason. You can buy street bikes now with launch control, track control, wheelie control, high side control, spin control. But they are not the end all.
No, you can still make mistakes. And these guys are pushing, and they're on the edge the whole time. And, like you say, the front, what is it, Greg? The front 9 guys. I mean, Danny Essex in the 13s as well. I mean, so when you look at it, it's all so close up front, and they're all pushing so hard, and it's just a mistake, and it happens, and it's just good to see Matthew up and walking around. That's great.
So in this one, really be interesting to find out what happened with Tony Elias, because it was that lap before that Tony Elias just kind of lost some drive onto the front straightaway. All right, well, as the red flag continues and Matthew Scults gets off the track, we'll take a break. We'll be right back to Road America for the Motul Superbike class. Still under red flag conditions here at Road America as we wait the restart of the Motul Superbike race number 2. Let's get down to Hannah, who's working, the hot pits right now. Hannah, what do you got?
I'm down here with Tony Elias right now. Tony, tell us a little bit about what was going on at the beginning of that race just now.
Well, the wind is pretty hard. Disturb a lot. I think it's difficult for everybody. But I felt much more comfortable than yesterday. but still some work to do. I've been lucky the race stop. I was thinking to follow Roger, my teammate, but we both we were doing some mistakes. So when I decided to come back in third position, we found the red flag. I hope Matthew is okay. But yeah, let's do it. Another one. Great start again with a better setup. The bike is more quiet than yesterday, so I can fight a little bit more. So we'll see. I'm confident.
All right, thank you so much, Tony.
All right, so the bike's a little bit more quiet, so a little bit more under control. As you know, as we see, it's pretty evident even from our wide shots what was going on with Tony. And yeah, Jason, you know, as we get this thing restarted, it looks like, you know, they might do the regrid with Herron, Tony Elias, Roger Hayden on the front row, but race action looks like it's going to be as exciting or even more so than yesterday.
Yeah, now it's truly a sprint race. It goes from the 14 laps that we had to 9, so it's going to make everything happen a little bit different, and it does change your strategies a little bit. It's a little bit harder when you have that many people up at the front with you to come up with a complete plan. You want to make sure that you don't get shuffled back too far and that kind of thing. Here we go again with Matthew, and yeah, the accident had already happened, Greg, before it comes into our view, but it looks like it probably is one of those things where he gets high-sided off the inside of the bike. And you can see here he wasn't happy, but what's great is Matthew is going over there, he's looking at his bike, he's trying to get, you know, people to not hold on to him so much right now. But what we also need to show is that he went back and shook each one of their hands, you know.
It's really a natural reaction, you know. So, I mean, you know, one of the things with Matthew is he's a racer, he wants to fight to get back on the bike, and, you know, the thing to do would have been, if it was rideable, to come back and then have his crew work on it. So, unfortunately for Matthew Skoltz and his Yamalu Westby Racing team, it's going to be race over for those people on I would say, you know, a weekend where they were struggling quite a bit, you know, and this is one of those weekends where hopefully Matthew's going to be okay in the long run. Every team,
you know, every rider, doesn't matter where, you hope that you can make it through every single weekend without any bad ones, but every now and then you're going to have a bad weekend, and they had one this weekend.
All right, we'll take another break as red flag conditions continue. We hope to get things rolling here in just a matter of minutes, so hang tight as the Motul Superbike race number 2 will get back underway shortly. Welcome back to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's the MotoAmerica Championship, Motul Superbike, race number 2. It made it a couple of laps, and then Matthew Skoltz on the Yamalu Westby Racing Yamaha had an incident exiting turn number 13. There's 14 turns on the track, and so we're under red flag conditions. Now let's take a look, Jason, at this part of the race. Now this was a couple laps ago when Josh Herron took over the lead. I want to take a look at Tony Elias and see what happened.
Tony runs just a little tiny bit wide there. Josh goes up underneath him, but the interesting part of this is you're going to see Josh go over to the right, and you're going to see Raj follow him. And then as they start headed up the hill, it kind of looked like to me that both Yoshimura bikes were fighting for that draft. And you're going to see Raj is trying to go over into the draft. Now Tony's going to want to go over there as well. And you can see right there, both those guys get just a little bit closer, and they looked over at each other. So it's just, that's how important the draft is here at Road America. You want to try your best to get in that draft, and both those guys were fighting for that spot. And that's why when that happened, Cameron was able to double draft both the Yoshimura bikes and go past them.
So what we're left with now is pit lane opens here in just a couple of minutes, is an 8-lap sprint race around this 4-mile road course. A spectacular place. Is we have cloudy conditions today, and the wind is still blowing. But, you know, taking a look at this Road America circuit, we've had some great race action all weekend long, and here's a little recap of what's happened so far to get it to this point.
Yep. Tony got off to the start, same start he got yesterday. Raj fell in right there behind him. Cameron third. You can see Danny Eslick there on the silver Scheibe BMW. Looks like he got himself up to fourth, but then Herron and Gerloff were just able to sneak up underneath him there. So and then it was kind of what we saw yesterday. We saw a big group of riders. You see Herron's bike obviously is very comfortable going around the carousel, as is Cameron's bike here with going around the outside of Raj. But we saw this big group. Cameron went underneath Tony going into the last corner on the very, very first lap. So, and this kind of just set the stage. And it was a bit of a drafting and redraft war down the front straightaway. And you know, this is one of those things. You see all the people on the left, everybody holding the pit boards. Until you've really been there and you've seen these bikes go by you on the front straightaway at 180 mile an hour, and how much debris and things it kicks up off the racetrack. It's a tough job being out there on the wall. And it's you can see here's Josh going underneath Tony, going down into turn 3. You can see how early Josh gets on the gas as well. But Tony was able to draft back past him before they'd even got to the bridge. So down into turn 5 again, another one of our prime passing spots. And this is the little thing that we talked about just now. Tony gets in there, and he gets in there just a little bit wide where he didn't feel comfortable turning the bike that hard. So Heron cut it back up underneath him, and then we had this happen. It's really too bad to see because we have not seen Matthew make any mistakes this year. He's ran pretty faultless, so it's too bad to see him run off there on the exit of 13. But here you go. We did get to see him. He was frustrated and angry, but he did get himself back up. They put him in the ambulance just to probably go get checked out, but otherwise he looked pretty well.
So the South African Matthew Schultz and the Amalu Westby Racing team out of this one. They won't be taking the grid, so now we're down to, let's see, looking here on the timing and scoring monitors. We'll take a look through. It'll be 16 riders. Matthew Schultz is credited with being in 13th place on the restart. So if we have it right, so looking at our screens here, it looks like Roger Hayden. There's no way this is going to be right.
No, it's a little bit wrong. I think it's just a list.
Yeah, what we have is riders in Roger Hayden, Bobby Fong, Cam Beaubier.
This is how they went out. This is how they went out of the pits. Yeah.
It'd be amazing if the 73 Sebastiano Ferreira was able to take 4th on the grid. He'd be shocked.
He'd be loving it. No, it's
Gerloff, Jake Lewis, Josh Heron, Kyle Wyman. And don't forget to check us out at Bein Motor. Send us your comments about the race action you're going to be checking out here in just a matter of moments. It's hashtag #BeinMotoAmerica, and we might pop your comments on the screen. That's, of course, on Twitter, so it's at Bein Motor, and that's at Bein Motors on Instagram. It's on Facebook as well, so you want to be interactive with us on the social media. We'd like to hear what is on your mind, and if you're have some nice comments for us and your spelling's correct and your grammar's pretty good, we'll pop you up on the screen there. All right, so
this will probably be one of the quick starts, I believe, Greg, where they'll just come and stop on the line, have somebody out there just to show them where their grid spots are. And this won't be like our normal starts where we're going to be hanging out for probably 4 or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. We're going to get these guys started right up.
So the red flag, I think Hannah got, when she talked to Tony Elias, I think one of the things that Tony was alluding to was the fact that they were able to make some changes to that motorcycle for Tony. So obviously Daisuke and his crew, Tony's crew, going in a certain direction, and perhaps they were able to do something else. Is Tony typical on this warm-up lap on the gas? All right, so here's going to be your starting grid. It's going to be Josh Heron in pole position. Tony Elias will take the 2nd grid spot. Roger Hayden in 3rd. Cam Beaubier will be 4th. Then it's going to be Gerloff in 5th. Schultz is obviously slotted for 6th place. We're not going to see him in there. So then it's got to be Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis, Danny Eslick on row number 3, Kyle Wyman, Cameron Peterson, and David Anthony. David Anthony on his Fly Racing Kawasaki, by the way, they had some engine trouble, so he is on 100% stock ZX10 motor. A thing he basically said, a real suffering here at Road America.
Not a worse track for him to be at.
Sebastiano Ferrara in 5th. Max Flinders will be your 14th starter, and Bruno Silva, that's row 5, and then Sam Bertorico and Jeffrey Perk on row number 6. So Josh Heron takes a look over his shoulder. The crew starts to clear the grid. So all riders know exactly where they are.
Well, the warm-up lap now.
Yep.
See Bobby Fong there. Bobby's also at the back end of that lead group. So those guys had some struggles yesterday. Got him out, which was great. Got him out there. Scored a couple points and actually turned some pretty decent laps, considering we didn't get to see him much, but he was able to circulate. And then today he's right at the back of that lead group. And you know, Greg, it is a bit of a disadvantage when you don't get that first race under your belt, and you know that everybody else got those 14 laps. All kind of in the big battle that there was yesterday. So Bobby did a good job today to get his race face on and get to the front with this lead group.
All right, so we got word from the Yamalu Westby Racing team, for those of you interested, that Matthew Skoltz is okay. He went into medical. He'll be in there for about 15 minutes or so, and then they plan on him being released. He's obviously very upset, but Matthew, from his own words, said that he just lost the rear coming over the top of turn 13, like you were talking about.
Yeah, and that's what can happen there. The bike just gets very light, and it can get a little unstable as he comes up over the top of that hill, and yeah, it just spin him down. So I'm just glad he's all right. So Matthew's going to be tough. I mean, the next couple rounds, or a few rounds for Matthew, I think Laguna, I think Infineon out in California are going to be two very, very strong tracks for that team. So at least he's going to be going there healthy. That's the main thing.
That is the main thing. And you talk to anyone over at the Yamalu Westby Racing team, including Trig Westby or Chuck Giacchino, they'll tell you the same thing. Parts are parts, but it's Matthew that matters. All right. So the warm-up lap is coming to a close here as we take a look once more at the grid. If you're just joining us on our coverage on BN Sports, this is the MotoAmerica Superbike Championship. It's an AMA/FIM North American Road Race Championship. We're at the Motul Superbike, race number 2 for the weekend. Race number 1 ended with absolute fireworks, and it ended 0.02 of a second, the margin of victory yesterday. We're under red flag. We were under red flag conditions, with Yamalu Westby Racing's Matthew Skoltz losing the rear end coming over the crest of turn 13. And he got up and walked away from it. Won't be restarting this race, but this is where we are, an 8-lap sprint race to decide who will win this race number 2. Now, because they got a number of laps in that the entire field was able to complete, they did a re-grid for this race. It's Josh Herrin on pole position, or in the number 1 slot. Tony Elias will be in the 2nd slot of row number 1, Roger Hayden in 3rd. So Cambobier will be the closest to turn number 1 on row 2, and then Garrett Gerloff and Matthew Skoltz's slot is there, so we should see that empty. Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis, Danny Eslick, Kyle Wyman, Cam Peterson, David Anthony, that's row 4. Sebastio Ferrara, Max Flinders, Bruno Silva, row 5, San Federico, and Jeffrey Perk. All right, so here we go. Once this grid is cleared, we will see what we normally see. Upper left-hand part of your screen, the lights go on, then off, and the clutches are dropped. We'll see what Tony Elias has in him. The Ultimate Bike getting incredible starts.
Another good start from Tony there on the front row. He does know how to get that bike off the line, and I believe you're probably going to see Raj go into 2nd, follow him right in. Josh is going to turn up underneath Raj and go back by him as they head into turn 1. Cameron Bobier and Garrett Gerloff on the factory Yamahas fall into spots 4 and 5 as they head down the hill for the first time. Kyle Wyman, great start for Kyle, gets himself in the 6th with Jake Lewis just behind him. Man, they just, on the exit, from the apex to the exit of that corner, Josh is so much faster than Tony there.
It's unbelievable. Same story as yesterday. Down through turn 4, into the hard-braking turn 5. You see that Yoshimura Suzuki bike trying to fight Tony as he gets the thing slowed down. We'll get into 5, in and out. Josh Herrin trying to make up that gap. So is Roger Hayden. And there's Cambobier hanging back in 4th. So this first lap, riders trying to stay in tow. Still going to Garrett Gerloff in that mix.
Yeah, still see Tony's bike moving around an awful lot on the exit of 6th there.
Yeah.
More than I'm normally used to seeing. So you can see he just kind of gets it right down the apex, stops it, gets it out. And this is why Josh is carrying so much corner speed right now.
Oh man, it's
so hard to go.
wide.
It's really hard to go that long way around.
You can see the front end of that motorcycle working too. The shocks or the forks on that one just kind of bouncing that front tire around. And Tony just comfortable getting it sideways. Gets his head turned, looking out of that corner. Josh Herrin with a good drive as well. I really like what I'm seeing from Roger Hayden right now as well.
Yeah, for sure. He's right in there, and you're exactly right about that little gap now. They got that gap back to Garrett. I'm not exactly sure what happened with Garrett there, but yeah, they got it there.
So Gerloff had a little bit of a gap the first couple laps as Josh Herrin really spinning up that rear tire, trying to stay with Tony on this one. So we saw, Josh.
See, that's the little bit of movement that you see there from Josh Herrin. He's going to duck up underneath Tony. Tony got into a little bit of a head shake too. Josh runs it just a little bit wide.
Well, there's the opposite pass we saw from when Herrin took over the lead before the red flag.
But you can see Tony, he just was not able to get out of the corner the way he wanted with Josh. He just went in there a little bit tight. But those first 4 guys are gone. I mean, they've literally opened up already, what they opened up, Greg, a 1.1 from first to fifth right now. So Cameron's been able to go, Raj has been able to go. So we've got one more guy today up front that wasn't there yesterday. It's good to see Raj up there battling hard, and Raj is going to be a guy that's going to let things settle and watch things a little bit. Now remember, we only got 8 laps this time, so we're on lap 2 of 8. And Raj has raced with all these guys before, so he's going to be just kind of watching to see how things shape up here up front.
Herron's so incredible out of turn number 3. Bike moving around a lot, down deep into turn 5. Roger Hayden's bike looks the tidiest of them all, the first 3.
Yep.
Underneath the Corvette bridge. Look at Herron now, just using that corner speed, but it's that little part of the tire. Oof, that was close.
It's just that's a hard spot to do it. He's just racing close right now. It's really hard to pass anybody going from turn 6 to turn 7. Cameron can see that these 2 guys in front aren't getting away. You saw him have a little look up the inside of Raj, but no real need for that just yet. He knows that this is the spot. This is the only spot where Raj looks like he struggles a little bit more than the other guys that he's racing against right now is in the carousel. This time he's able to stay a little bit closer, but you can see there'll be a little gap between him and Herron as they exit. But Raj makes that up as they come in here on the brakes into the chicane pretty easily.
New lease on life too for Jake Lewis, who's in 6th spot just behind Garrett Gerloff. Bobby Fong in the mix as well. Cam Peterson on the Genuine Broaster Chicken Honda up into 10th spot. So far in this one.
Oh, he's searching for gears. Tony, he's missed a gear. He missed a gear down there. That's what I mean, Greg. Just something just seems strange this week with him. And now he's going to fall into the clutches of Garrett Gerloff back there. And we'll see if he's able to make that time. You know, he just made a mistake. You can see him searching for gears as he headed off into Canada corner.
And I
that's a big gap for these 3 guys.
I guarantee you, Jason, you talked about pit board communication right now.
And he didn't get out of the last corner very well either, so maybe he's running into a problem because he didn't get out of the last corner very well. In the previous race, you thought there might have been an issue.
Something, something that just didn't seem right. But Tony up. Is Tony
Roger made the pass. It looks like Herron went back up underneath him in turn 1.
All right, so let's focus on these top 3 right now. Is the one thing that Tony has, if he gets this sorted out, can he drag Garrett Gerloff back into tow? And we can make this with Jake Lewis as well in the mix and Bobby Fong. Can these riders close the gap on the lead? Right now, it's looking pretty good for these 3 as Josh Herron goes deep on the number 2 bike. Attack Performance Herron Compound Machine. That's a Yamaha versus a Suzuki versus a Yamaha. So Herron will lead us underneath the Corvette bridge.
We got to look at the splits now. This is where we have a little bit of advantage over the rest of everybody else watching just the TV. We can look at our splits right now, and we'll be able to see if Tony makes up any time as Cameron looks underneath Raj. Raj looks really good on the brakes going in and through turn 8 and towards the carousel. This is going to be a big confidence boost for Raj right now, running up front. He saw what happened to his teammate, and but there's just that little bit of a gap right there. That's the one that worries me, Greg, especially as you go later on into the laps.
He doesn't seem to carry just another couple degrees of lean angle that Josh Herron does not have.
That's right. Just a little bit, just a tick more, but Raj is really clean all through here, and the Yoshimura Suzuki gets off that chicane really well. And look what happened. Garrett Gerloff and these other group, they're going with Tony. So maybe Tony can drag some of those guys up. It's going to be hard. These guys are running hard at the front. 12-4, 12-5, 12-6. The group behind Tony the last lap were in the 13s, and Tony did a 14.
Look, if this was a normal 2.5 mile or 1 minute 30-second, track, you have to look at Tony Elias and say, wow, well, listen, he's been in this position before. He's drifted back, but this
Cameron's going up underneath Raj.
Yep.
There you go. Raj should be able to draft past Cameron and Josh both right now, because I think if Cameron can get up to the back of Herron coming up this front straightaway, he's going to pull Raj right along with him. So let's see how that kind of plans out. You can see Raj has already pulled out of Cameron's draft. He stayed to the left of him that time when they came down the straightaway.
Yeah, but Cameron got a good sniff. Now Cameron goes into the lead. Nope. Herron sends it sideways into turn 1. Beaubier a lot closer. Roger lost a little bit of time on that one.
He had the thing backed in as well going down into there. And but it's okay. Raj is still in a good spot here.
2:12.9 for Josh Herron, 2:12.7 for Beaubier. So the running order when they came across the stripe was Herron, Beaubier, Elias, or Hayden. Tony is in 4th with Gerloff right behind him, Jake Lewis and Bobby Fong. So Jason, you talking about looking at splits. Sector number 1, Tony Elias just set the fastest split.
And that's what happens. You start setting those fast splits. And you start, Garrett Gerloff runs wide in turn 5. So that's going to be a product of, you saw how fast Tony went in that first sector. Maybe Garrett was in that draft and just drew him into turn 5 a little quick. Cameron Beaubier up front now. So Cameron might feel like when he came across the line, he might have had a +1 or a +1.5 on his board, because that's going to tell him the gap to fourth. Maybe he feels like if he can get by Josh, he can try to put his head down and run away. We haven't seen Cameron lead from turn 5 to the chicane, I don't think, in 2 days. I talked to him about that yesterday. He felt like if he could lead through all this section, he might be able to do something with these guys. But Herron just looks so comfortable right now sitting behind him, and Raj is just right behind him as well. 24-2 second split for Cameron Beaubier. That is the fastest of the race as well. Herron also matched that.
So Tony Elias trying to mount the charge and close the gap to at least his teammate Roger Hayden. Here's where Josh Herron sends it sideways.
Cameron sent it sideways, and he got it turned, got it in there, got it through. Herron's going with him, and these guys are starting to pull away from Raj ever so slightly, and Tony's not making any impression on them at all. And that just really is because of the draft. And here comes Cameron coming into this last turn.
Yeah, but if these two keep messing around with each other, it could slow the pace down a bit. So Beaubier into the tuck, up the hill they come. We'll see factory horsepower versus privateer motor. Now with these electronics, Jason, as we head into turn number 1, will Herron try to outbrake Cam Beaubier? No, he doesn't.
Now, it'll be interesting to see what his board says as well. You know, I mean, I can't stress that enough. You're kind of watching how things go. Wouldn't be surprised to see Josh even maybe take a quick little peek over his shoulder as he comes out here. We'll have a look here. Nope, he's going to keep his head down. Good man.
All right, so Beaubier in it. Now, it's not always about horsepower because we have electronics, Jason. And talking to, Richard Stamboli from Attack Performance, who of course manages the program and builds the motors or builds the bikes for Josh Herron's program. It's about, as Herron spins it up, how much track control do you like to get in there, as well as wheelie control. So when the bike's being controlled wheelie-wise, it also cuts the power. So it's not saying that a motor's stronger than another. It's saying sometimes that the electronics are going to be dialed in a little bit better for what the rider wants. And they do have some controls, the rider, over different things that they can control, like different maps, engine braking characteristics that they have on board with them, usually on the left-hand side of the handlebar, the clutch side.
Josh likes to play with that a little bit, the engine brake side of things a little bit as the race goes on, or whatever he might be looking for in certain parts. But, Raj, just commenting on this here, I saw when they went in turn 5 last time, Raj had kind of drawn up on the back of them and then just ran a little bit wide because he had got there. And he's still there. Raj is still trying to get his head down, stay with him. He ran the fastest first spurt of his race by almost half a second over these two guys. So if he could just kind of clean through here. And the good thing is Cameron and Herron are not messing around with each other too much here. Herron's running Cameron very hard, but he's not getting up alongside of him. He's not slowing them down. And it's when you don't have anybody kind of draft by you for 1 or 2 straightaways or laps, it definitely changes your philosophy as a rider, what you're thinking about, how to plan things. And so far, these two guys haven't got drafted down the last 3 or 4 straightaways, and Raj has fallen back just a little bit. I think this is going to be an important lap for Raj. This is going to be the one where we're going to be able to tell if Raj can actually get this gap and close it down at all. 2:12.2, 2:12.3. The last lap, they went down into the 11s. The 11.9 for Cameron Beaubier, the last lap. And Raj, 2:12.4 for Raj, that lap there. You can see he's pushing hard to try to get back on terms with these two Yamahas.
And behind them, Tony Elias just hit the fastest lap of that last lap, a 2:12.2.71, just a 1/100th of a second faster than Beaubier. But also, he's got Bobby Fong in tow back there, who did a 2:12.6.
Bobby's like
great up in 5th spot.
Yep, and look, see, Raj has kind of got back on the back now. This is where the carousel becomes the problem, because all this looks really good for Raj. He looks pretty fast down all through here. We'll get a chance to look at, this is Tony going down into turn 1 earlier in the race, it looks like, or maybe just a couple times ago. I couldn't tell if that was Bobby behind him, but you can see he's got that front soft and rear soft also on there. Now, Raj kind of closes this back in. He's getting the second split is Raj's fastest of his race. But then this is where the struggle is a little bit for Raj. See how close he is, Greg?
Yeah.
Watch the difference when they come out of here.
And it's kind of this part of the carousel where he kind of lifts up a little bit and then he kind of digs it back down right there.
Yep.
That just seems to be that little bit that he's losing.
It's the only spot, really, I think that Raj is struggling.
So Cameron Beaubier continues to lead the way here on the Monster Energy Yamaha Factory Racing Machine over the Yamaha of Attack Performance Heron Compound Yamaha. Josh Heron right behind them, of course, is Roger Hayden on that Yoshimura Suzuki. Tony Elias in fourth. And it looks like Heron's going to fight him. So he goes in there, but it's that bump. I don't think he went in there pretty tight, and there's that one little bump that you talked about before, and I don't think Heron was quite comfortable going over that bump.
Old number 95 is going to like seeing that right now for sure. I can promise you that, because those are the kind of things that are just going to slow them up ever so slightly. So, but Josh wants to start taking shots. We got 3 to go. He needs to start to make his plan of what he wants to do. That's going to be the first little test run to see, does he have the ability to operate down in the Canada corner? Now he knows he does. He's going to have to, in order to make that pass work, Greg, he's got to just pull up just alongside Cameron. He can't actually go past him in Canada corner. He's got to just try to pull up alongside of him and make it to where Cameron can't turn the bike in. That's what he'll try to do, and that's what he'll put in his memory bank for laps to come.
All right, 2 to go. Roger Hayden closes in slightly. He's just got to get that gap, just another half a second.
Just a 10th quicker that lap was Raj over these 2 guys in front. You can see the bikes moving around. Look how sideways Heron's is. This is where Matthew had his problem earlier. And then, like I said, it's got a little bit of a crest to it, and that's what sends these bikes and ties them in the knots a little bit. But look, Raj has definitely closed the gap down.
Well, Heron with just a little bit of a miscue there. You can see the attitude of the front end of the bike. But up underneath the Corvette bridge they go. Heron's corner speed is tremendous.
Yeah,
on this
no,
motorcycle. He's so comfortable on the edge and with this new rear Dunlop.
This is the difference. When I talked to Richard earlier, he said that they had, with the electronics and things, when they went to COTA, they put a map in basically that said that it had TC built into it. He actually had 0 TC. So the problem that they've been running into is trying to come up with the calculations to make it to where he's got the right amount of TC. That's why we've seen him fall back over the 4, 5, 6 laps of the last couple of races. And that's why now that's not happening so much. He still feels really good on the bike and has a lot of confidence in how much grip he has.
Well, it looks like turn 5 to turn 6, a couple corners ago, kind of spelled disaster a little bit for Roger Hayden as he had gotten close up to those riders. Now just a mistake. But
it's not so much a mistake, Greg, as you're right, it's just 24.0 to 24.4 in that split where the carousel is. That's almost half a second he lost just in that little section. So that's where the problem is. And Cameron Beaubier gets through Canada corner really clean this time. Josh gets out a little bit wide, so that's going to cost him just a little bit of time. Judging
from our splits, you can see Beaubier is really trying to take off now. He set the fastest split of Sector 3 just moments ago. They're just done with Sector 4, and they come up to the top of the hill now.
Yep, Raj lost time this lap. This is
white flag out, so here we go. If Josh Heron has a strategy in his mind to get around Cameron Beaubier and win this race, he's only got about 3.8 miles to do it.
You can see Bobby Fong is right still going with Tony, so this is a great run from him on the Hudson Motorcycles R1, doing a great job keeping Tony in sight.
Heron nice and close as we expect through turn number 3. He's been magic through that section.
Really fast.
Corner speed and drive at the same time. Down into turn 5. You know Heron can take a shot here. He's not scared to get deep in on the brakes. Here goes Beaubier. He's down there. Heron's trying to send it sideways. Does he block Beaubier's line? Can he get it turned?
Great job.
Beautiful job by Josh Heron.
You can see him using a little bit of rear brake too. Now Cameron is just going to probably sit on him. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, Cameron knows yesterday he was able to make the draft on Heron, but it was only 2,000ths, Greg, and that was with Heron making a mistake. So if Heron can kind of clean this, it looks like Cameron's going to get a run on him, but it's pretty hard to pass down into here.
Couple bike lengths. Heron getting on the gas, using his strength right now. Oh, Heron up and out of the saddle. Can he hold it tight?
This is where he's been good through this carousel, but Beaubier has been able to go with him through here. His corner speed is matching Josh Heron's all the way down through this particular section. Now they're going to go all the way back down to first gear for this turn here, this little chicane. It's important you get out of here cleanly. Now we saw Josh go up underneath Cameron 2 laps ago. Will Cameron try the same move he tried yesterday against Tony? Now, he got out of there a little bit worse than Heron. Heron got out of there really well.
Really good, yeah.
So it's going to be a big Cameron's in the draft.
Is Beaubier going to try to upset the line of Josh Herrin?
That time Herrin closed it off, but look, it ran him a little bit wide. Ran him a little bit wide, and that's all that mattered. Now, Herrin is going to be interested to see if he tries to duck underneath Cameron. He's got the run on him on the outside, which is going to put him to the inside of this next turn. He's going to try to duck underneath him, Greg.
So Cameron Beaubier side by side with Josh Herrin. Herrin has the lead. Beaubier to the inside. Herrin up and out of the saddle. That could be it. As Cameron Beaubier in the tuck, he comes up the hill, and Cameron Beaubier will take the race. Race number 2 of the Motul Superbike class, as Josh Herrin put on another great effort. And the margin of victory, 1/10 of a second, just shy of 2/10 of a second, as Josh Herrin spun up that rear tire. Roger Hayden, after a so-so weekend for he and his Yoshimura crew, they're able to stand on the podium. Tony Elias 4th, Bobby Fong only 0.8 of a second behind Tony. Fong nearly got up to 4th spot.
What a great run.
Great run for the number 50 machine, Bobby Fong and his team in 5th spot to beat the factory of Garrett Gerloff. So Fong on that Quicksilver Lexan Moto Hudson Motorcycles machine does it. It's Gerloff, Jake Lewis in 7th, Danny Eslick in 8th, Cam Peterson in 9th spot. A bunch of data gained for that team yesterday, and they're putting all that information to use. A good job by Cam Peterson.
Look at these two guys, both Tony and yesterday was yesterday, today's a new day. Tony goes up and congratulates Cameron. So, it's nice to see that. I don't think we're talking about it enough. It's really nice to see Raj back up on the podium. I know he's been struggling with some confidence issues and things. I talked to Frenchie and James this morning, and it's going to do Raj really well to go to round 5 at Laguna Seca with this podium under his belt. But Cameron Beaubier, how about this, Greg? Look at the points now. I was just going to say something to you about it, but our crew are on top of it in our truck. Cameron Beaubier now leads the championship by 2 as we head off to the West Coast.
Who would have thought that coming into Road America? It looked like this was going to be a runaway season for Tony Elias. Coming into this race, he had a 10-point advantage over Cam Beaubier. But when you finish 4th, you get 13 to 25, and there is the difference. So a stellar year. I mean, Tony Elias, we're looking at right now, started off the season win-win, a 4th place finish, win-win-win.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people were calling for it to be over.
Yeah.
That it was just a battle for 2nd spot. But this is what this race, and that's what close racing will do.
Raj's bike? Raj ran out of gas, or Herrin ran out of gas.
Herrin ran out of gas.
So he's getting a lot of toes.
Danny Eslick, he's always willing. These two have raced against each other for quite a long time. So good job by Danny Eslick. 8th place finish for the Hayes Brakes.
Yeah, I want to see how
Racing motorcycle.
I want to see how this works out coming up this big steep hill. We'll see how strong Danny's leg is to push him up the hill, right?
Yeah, so Roger Hayden. The fastest lap of that race will go to Cameron Beaubier. That was a 2:11.9. Of course, the race record set yesterday. So qualifying record is a 2:11.4 for MotoAmerica, since they started back in 2015, this Motul Superbike race. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
It's not .002, but still, I mean, Jason, look at the timing and scoring. We have less than 2/10 of a second of margin of victory, and we're like, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, our racing's getting really good here in America, and it has been. And the guys at MotoAmerica have done a good job. We've got some great teams now. We're seeing some new faces. Here you go. Here's a replay coming out of turn 13 on the last lap. Now you're going to see Josh cross back over. We know Cameron's good at going in there tight. Josh wanted to go in there tighter. The only problem is it makes it a lot harder. You can see Herrin's got the gear he wants to be in, but now as he tries to screw the throttle on because he was so tight on his entry, it makes it really hard. And what a great picture that is right there. Herrin's got the thing sideways, wheeling in, losing the front, and then getting on the curbing. So there's a lot of things going on there.
Just straight up motoing it.
Yeah, and
so much talent in this guy.
Yeah, and if you showed somebody that doesn't know about our sport what was just going on right there, they would definitely have a respect for that as well.
But no doubt track day guys are at home going, I do that every time I come out of this final corner.
Exactly right. But it was able to give Cameron a pretty clean run on the exit of that corner, and he was able to just pull away enough. It's a big weekend for Cameron.
What a change of fortunes, really. Great race. Cameron had to fight for it the entire time. Walks away with a couple of victories and the points lead. Boy, Cameron Beaubier, who started his season, by the way, with only 7 points. That's a 9th place finish if you remember back to round number 1, and thought, oh boy, just let me get out of here. Let me get out of Road Atlanta with some points. And now here we are, 8 races into the season, and the 2-time Superbike champion Cameron Beaubier leads the way by a couple of points. This is going to be a great season, Jason. I think it's going to go all the way down to the wire.
Yep, there's no question. And you know, the thing is that anybody makes any little mistakes, and that's the problem that you have. And we had a great race yesterday, and then we had another great race today. And you know, you got to remember, we're going to be throwing Matthew Schultz into the picture for some of these races coming up.
Look at Heron helping out.
Oh yeah.
That's what a privateer effort looks like versus a full-blown factory effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Walker and Will down there, they're happy with everything here. And saw Keith McCarthy running over to Josh as well. So great job for him.
We agree with you. It was really exciting. What a race that was. I mean, heart-pounding races all the way across the board at Road America. It's part of the reason why we love coming here, because we just know that the race action is going to be so close. Thank you, everyone, for your tweets. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Mark Ferme interviews coming at you. Woo, that was exciting. What a race we had here in the Motul Superbike race number 2. We got to get right down to Hannah and find out how it went for the riders.
I'm here with other place finisher Roger Hayden. Roger, that's the first podium for you this season. How does it feel?
It feels really good. You know, this year's been, you know, not the greatest year, so I was glad to finally be back racing at the front with those guys. So I felt good. I made a big mistake with 2 laps to go, and those guys got a little bit of a gap on me, but you know, Josh and Cameron were riding great. And I just got to thank my whole Yoshimura Suzuki team, all my guys. They've been busting their butts all year and sticking behind me, and I think we got it turned around.
Congratulations. Thanks, Roger.
All right, that's big for the rest of the field as well, and for racing the championship. You know, for Roger Hayden, he's not looking like he's in it at the moment. He was back in 12th at the start of this race, but you know, Roger could definitely make a difference in the championship if it comes down to, you know, the Cam Beaubier, Tony Elias type fight. Yep, Roger Hayden could be a deciding factor in all. All right, let's go down to Josh Heron, who put another fantastic effort in today.
Back-to-back second place finishes for you. Tell us what was going on that last lap there. It seems like you had a little moment coming right out of that last corner.
Yeah, just, you know, every lap I was trying to get Cam at the start-finish. He was just getting really good drives out of that last corner. And I knew my only shot at winning was to get him in that last corner, and I just couldn't hold it and got out on the paint. You know, it was raining earlier today, so it was a little bit slippery. Just went for a ride and tried to tuck in and hope that Roger wasn't close enough to get me, but had to go for it. Just got to thank the whole team. You know, the bike's running great. We, like I said yesterday, we were able to get 1 test in and probably only got like 30 laps in, but that made a huge difference for this weekend. I was expecting this to be one of our toughest tracks, and now I'm super pumped to go to a short track where I know we're going to do really well, because we've been struggling in the long straights here. Just couldn't get the drives out of the corners this weekend, but all the tight stuff we got it handled. So looking forward to Laguna Seca. It's super pumped to be here in Wisconsin. Miss the Blake Young fans out here screaming, but it's fun just being out here and being around a bunch of people that are really into the sport, and look forward to coming back next year.
Thanks, Josh. Congrats.
A couple things in that, Jason, I think. Number 1, he had to give it a go. Yep, sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the second thing is we've seen some tremendous corner speed from him. Really, in some key corners.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, if you're his competition, you got to be looking around right now saying, oh boy, when we get to what we call riders racetracks, it's going to be crazy. All right, well, for Cameron Beaubier, he was able to pull it off. 0.195 of a second, the margin of victory, and a good ride for Cam.
Race wins for you after another intense battle with Josh. Tell us about the last couple of laps and your battles with him.
Yeah, you know, this whole weekend was a crazy one. Today it felt so good just to back up yesterday. We had a really good bike all weekend. My team's been you know, they put just such a good bike under me this weekend, and so this one's definitely for them. And yeah, you know, after the after the red flag, or before the red flag, I felt like we were in a pretty good position. Me and Josh were up front, and we were able to kind of let the R1s roll through the track, which we kind of been struggling a little bit when we get behind the Yosh guys. But yeah, you know, it was an awesome battle. It was all good, all clean today, and I really enjoyed myself. You know, I think I need to make a trip to the Heron compound and learn how to pass. Heron was lining me up everywhere. So yeah, that was it was an awesome battle. Like I said, big thanks to my guys, Monster Energy, Yamaha, Yamalu, Bell, Alpine Stars, and Man Above for keeping me safe. And yeah, I'm excited for Laguna.
Congratulations. Thanks, Cameron.
Well, Jason, in the battle for Superbike race winners, the active race winners, coming into this event, Cameron Beaubier and Tony Elias were tied at 21 apiece. Advantage Beaubier +2 in that one for active riders. And that takes Yamaha's win total in MotoAmerica since the beginning up to 38. So still some history to be made for Suzuki. They could, at Laguna Seca, capture their 200th race win in competition. And by the way, the first one was at Laguna, so that would be a pretty good celebration if Roger or Tony could fight back and win. Here's a look at our championship point standings. We talked about it. Cameron Beaubier, 153 points, ladies and gentlemen. 2-point advantage over Tony Elias as we head off to round number 5. Josh Heron in 3rd spot, Matthew Schultz in 4th, Jake Lewis in 5th, Gerloff, Wyman, Eslick, and David Anthony with 50 points. The Australian on the Kawasaki ZX-10R. Well, here's a little bit of results for you from that Twitter poll that we talked about earlier. It was pretty even across the board, with Josh Heron getting the nod on who the fans thought would take the win. But 30% of you nailed it. Cameron Beaubier takes it.